Hello everyone, and welcome to my channel. I hope everyone is having a wonderful day. Before we begin, please hit the subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up. Audra's wedding day bombshell could destroy Kyle Abbott and Claire Newman. Kyle Abbott proposes to Claire Newman on YNR, but Audra Charles plots revenge. Will she show up at their wedding to let Kyle know about Nice Towel's secret? Inside explosive spoilers. YNR spoilers. Audra's wedding day bombshell could destroy Kyle Abbott and Claire Newman. TLDR. On The Young and the Restless, Kyle Abbott proposes to Claire Newman and she accepts, but Audra Charles plots revenge at their wedding by potentially exposing Kyle's lie about their nice encounter where he was wearing only a towel when they kissed. Is it wedding hell or wedding bells? Audra's got the ammunition. Hold on to your champagne glasses, Genoa City. Kyle Abbott is about to drop to one knee and propose to Claire Newman, and spoilers confirm she's going to say yes. But before you start throwing rice, there's a revenge-seeking missile headed straight for this wedding. And her name is Audra Charles. What is Audra planning for Kyle and Claire's wedding? Audra is planning to expose Kyle's lie about their nice encounter to destroy the wedding. The scorned executive has lost everything. Her Vibrante funding, her relationship with Nate Hastings, and her dignity. And she's blaming Kyle and Claire for all of it. Here's the tea that's about to spill everywhere. Kyle told Claire that Audra kissed him in Nice, but he conveniently left out the juicy details. The man was wearing nothing but a towel when Audra entered his train car. And they were on his bed when the lip lock happened. Oh, and that little detail about him kissing her back? Yeah, he skipped that part too. Audra has been dropping hints about this to her bestie Sally Spectra. And you know she's just waiting for the perfect moment to blow everything up. Will Audra actually crash the wedding ceremony? It's highly likely Audra will crash the wedding to get her revenge. Picture this classic soap moment. The priest asks if anyone objects to this union, and up stands Audra with a smirk that could freeze hell over. She's got nothing left to lose and everything to gain by publicly humiliating the couple who destroyed her life. Audra blames Kyle for outsmarting her in Nice. Getting Victor Newman to stop giving her money, ruining her dreams of launching her own company. She blames Claire for revealing her plan with Victor to Nate, ruining their relationship, serving as the final blow to her professional career. Does Claire know the whole truth about Nice? No, Claire does not know Kyle was practically naked and kissed Audra back. This is the relationship's ticking time bomb. Claire values honesty above all else because of her twisted upbringing with Jordan Howard. As a result, she has significant trust issues. Kyle's partial confession has already left Claire questioning their relationship. When she discovers that he actively participated in that kiss while only wearing a towel, this woman who was raised on lies and manipulation is going to explode. The fact that Kyle thinks a proposal will fix everything instead of coming clean shows he hasn't learned a thing from his past relationship disasters. What is Victor's contribution to this mess? Victor initially hired Audra to break up Kyle and Claire, offering to fund her Vibrante cosmetics line in exchange. But when Kyle exposed Audra's scheme in France, Victor pulled the plug on their deal faster than you can say Newman Enterprises. Now Victor's got what he wanted. Kyle and Claire are having trust issues, but Audra's left with nothing. Utilizing individuals as pawns and then discarding them when they fail is a classic Victor strategy. What comes next for Audra, Claire, and Kyle? Could this indicate that Kyle and Claire's relationship will fail before they can say, I do? Don't be surprised if Claire becomes a runaway bride when the full truth comes out. Given her history with deception, this could trigger all her trauma and send her spiraling. Reading between the lines, Audra might not work alone. She could team up with Summer Newman, who's been confirmed by head writer Josh Griffith to have lingering feelings for her ex-husband. Working together, two women who are despised? That wedding will never happen. This likely leads to a massive Newman-Abbott family war escalation. Jack Abbott won't stand by while his son is humiliated. And Victor will use this as proof that the family should never mix. If I know these writers, one explosive wedding day will have repercussions for weeks. The conclusion is that this wedding is doomed to fail. This wedding raises more red flags than a bullfighting convention due to Kyle's lies, Audra's desire for vengeance, Victor's opposition, and Summer waiting in the wings. Audra has already lost everything. Her company dreams, her man, her reputation. What's she got to lose by standing up at that wedding and telling Claire exactly what her groom was wearing when they kissed? Mark my words. When Audra Charles shows up at that church, she's not coming to catch the bouquet. She's coming to burn the whole thing down, and honestly, Kyle kind of deserves it for not learning that secrets always come out in Genoa City. Always. Summer's fall return crashes Claire and Kyle's wedding. The Young and the Restless spoilers hint that Kyle Abbott is slated to propose to Claire Newman during the week of September 1st to 5th. Naturally, Claire will most likely say yes, and she will be prepared to begin planning her dream wedding. A wedding can be planned in a matter of days or months in the land of soaps. Regardless, it doesn't seem like Claire will tie the knot, and all this wedding talk is just fluff to unleash some drama. Could this storyline be a way to set up Summer Newman's return? GC needs Summer Newman. When Summer set out to Milan to find employees for Marchetti, her departure was sudden and unexpected. With that said, the door is wide open for her return. Summer has received a lot of attention ever since she left Genoa City. Not only from her parents, Nick Newman and Phyllis Summers, but also from Kyle himself. It seems that Harrison Abbott took a trip to see his mom recently. The writers continue to keep Y&R fans updated on Summer, and this is a clear sign that a return is on the horizon, at some point. While she's not on canvas, her name hasn't vanished from storylines at all. The broken heart of Summer. In fact, there was a very interesting scene recently where Phyllis and Nick talked about why Summer hadn't returned to GC. Although she has a hot new designer boyfriend, her absence appears to be primarily due to her dislike of witnessing Kyle and Claire's romance. What will Summer do when she finds out that her cousin is set to marry her ex-husband? Will Summer storm back to her hometown to stop the wedding? That's a typical Summer move.
Kyle Abbott's decision to propose to Claire Newman on The Young and the Restless sets into motion one of the most volatile chains of events Genoa City has seen in years, because while Claire may be momentarily swept away by the romantic idea of binding herself to a man who represents stability, legacy, and devotion after her traumatic upbringing under Jordan Howard's manipulation, the reality is that their love story is standing on a foundation of secrets, half-truths, and the combustible presence of Audra Charles, who has already lost everything: her business funding for Vibrante, her position of influence, her relationship with Nate Hastings, and her professional credibility, and is therefore more dangerous than ever, since she has nothing left to lose and a very public, very humiliating revenge scheme in mind that could detonate at the exact moment Kyle and Claire are supposed to say "I do." Picture the scene: society and crimson lights buzzing with wedding prep, Jack Abbott trying to play the proud father while secretly doubting his son's maturity, Diane Jenkins Abbott thrilled at the thought of securing Claire as family, Victor Newman quietly satisfied that his manipulations already planted seeds of distrust between the couple, and Claire herself battling internal panic about whether she truly knows every layer of the man she's about to marry. After all, she grew up in an environment where lies were packaged as love and betrayal was disguised as guidance, so her threshold for deception is razor thin, and one revelation about Kyle could undo all the fragile progress she has made. The audience already knows the smoking gun: Kyle's half-truth about what really happened in Nice, where he claimed Audra kissed him but conveniently neglected to mention that he was standing in nothing but a towel, fresh from the shower, sitting on the bed when the kiss escalated, and that he actually kissed her back for a moment before pulling away. That missing detail is the kind of truth bomb that could obliterate a soap couple overnight, and Audra, who has been venting about this betrayal to her confidante Sally Spectra, is waiting like a viper for the perfect moment to strike. Imagine the wedding ceremony, pews filled with Genoa City's most judgmental faces, Nikki and Victoria whispering in the front row, Nick Newman muttering about how dangerous it is to mix Newman women with Abbotts, Phyllis Summers seething at the idea that her niece Claire is taking the place that her daughter Summer once held, and the minister arriving at that climactic question: "If anyone here knows any reason why these two should not be joined in holy matrimony, speak now or forever hold your peace." The tension will be unbearable, and then, heels clicking against the tile, door creaking open, Audra Charles strides in with the poise of a woman who's rehearsed this moment 1,000 times in the mirror, a slow, smug smile playing across her lips as gasps ripple through the room, because everyone knows Audra has been circling like a hawk ever since her fall from power, and now she finally has her chance to burn Kyle's carefully constructed house of cards to the ground. She'll expose the truth with relish, dragging out every humiliating detail: how Kyle wasn't just an innocent victim of her advances, how he was wearing only a towel, how they were on the bed, how he kissed her back, and how he lied to Claire by omission, believing that a shiny diamond ring would erase suspicion instead of owning up to his mistakes. For Claire, whose entire life was scarred by adults who twisted reality and fed her half-truths to control her, this revelation will not just sting, it will feel like betrayal at the cellular level, because she has repeatedly told Kyle that honesty is the only thing that matters to her after years of gaslighting, and now here he is, proving that even the man she trusted most thinks he can cherry-pick what parts of the truth to reveal. Audra will revel in the chaos, but she may not be acting alone, because whispers already suggest that Summer Newman is on her way back to town, lonely after Milan, wounded by Kyle moving on so quickly with her cousin, and carrying unresolved feelings that head writer Josh Griffith has teased will complicate everything. So imagine the 1-2 punch of Audra revealing Kyle's deceit while Summer simultaneously appears at the back of the church, hair flowing, eyes brimming with hurt, declaring that she cannot allow this marriage to happen. What began as a love story could spiral into a battlefield, Newman versus Abbott, ex-lovers versus fiancés, truth versus secrets. Victor, ever the chess master, will use the implosion as evidence that his original instincts were correct, that Claire cannot be trusted to maintain stability in the Abbott family and that the Abbotts themselves are reckless in their choices, while Jack, stung by the public humiliation of his son, will double down on defending Kyle even as he privately lectures him about the consequences of dishonesty. Diane will lash out at Audra for daring to ruin what she views as a second chance for her family to heal, and Phyllis, never one to waste a good scandal, may position herself as the defender of Summer's heart, fanning flames that could reignite the Abbott-Summers rivalry. Meanwhile, Nate Hastings may find himself drawn back into Audra's orbit, if only because chaos has always been her most intoxicating perfume, and Sally Spectra might regret egging her friend on when she realizes how devastating the fallout truly is. The entire storyline teeters on the edge of tragedy, because Claire, already fragile in her trust, could bolt from the ceremony in classic soap runaway bride fashion, veil flying, tears streaming, leaving Kyle devastated at the altar and questioning whether he will ever find a way to prove he is capable of lasting love. Audra, smirking in triumph, will claim victory, but her revenge could backfire spectacularly if the Newmans and Abbotts unite temporarily to drive her out of town, yet given how often Genoa City thrives on grudges, it's far more likely that this scandal will be the match that ignites months of dramatic fallout. Ultimately, the truth is clear, secrets always surface in Genoa City, proposals never erase the past, weddings are never safe from scandal, and in this case, Audra Charles's bombshell has the power to not only destroy Kyle and Claire's relationship but also to trigger a chain reaction that pulls in Summer's long-awaited return, Victor's ruthless maneuvering, Jack's protective instincts, Diane's desperation, and Phyllis's opportunism, leaving fans with exactly the kind of explosive, slow burn drama that guarantees this storyline will dominate the canvas for months to come, proving once again that in the world of the young and the restless, love may begin with a ring, but it almost always ends with betrayal, revenge, and the kind of wedding day disaster that fans will be talking about for years. Kyle Abbott had been pacing the floor of the Abbott mansion for hours before he finally convinced himself that a proposal was the only way to secure Claire Newman's love once and for all, telling himself over and over again that the grand gesture of a diamond ring, the magic words of a promise, and the image of a picture-perfect wedding would be enough to quiet her doubts, to overshadow the shadows of nice, and to silence that gnawing voice in his head that reminded him he had left out one very crucial truth about his entanglement with Audra Charles. Yet as he rehearsed the words he would say, "Claire, you're the only woman I want to spend my life with," he couldn't shake the way her eyes had clouded the last time he admitted, in part, what had happened in France, because Claire, still raw from a lifetime of Jordan Howard's manipulations, had looked at him as though she wanted to believe him but couldn't fully, and that sliver of doubt hung in the air like a storm cloud waiting to crack open at the worst possible moment. Meanwhile, Audra, pouring herself another glass of champagne in her suite at the Genoa City Athletic Club, had been plotting with meticulous precision, her words to Sally Spectra still echoing from the night before, "I'm not done with him, Sally. Kyle thinks he can humiliate me, take everything away, and walk down the aisle with some Newman princess? Not on my watch. I'll make sure Claire knows exactly what her groom was wearing when he kissed me," and Sally, half horrified and half thrilled by the drama, had only sighed, "Audra, just Don't get yourself arrested when you do it, though she knew her friend's smirk meant she had no intention of holding back. Across town, Claire clutched the engagement ring Kyle had slipped onto her finger and whispered to Victoria, "He loves me, Mom, but why does it feel like something is still missing? Why do I feel like there's more he hasn't told me?" And Victoria, ever cautious, had pulled her into a hug and answered gently, "Because you've been lied to your whole life, sweetheart. Trust doesn't come easy. If Kyle is keeping anything from you, better you find out now than after you say I do." That advice would haunt Claire in the hours leading up to the ceremony, because every smile, every well-wish from Diane and Jack, every toast at the rehearsal dinner carried the heavy weight of too good to be true, and her instinct screamed that something, or someone, was waiting to ruin this fragile happiness. And someone was. Because Audra Charles had circled the date on her calendar not as a defeat but as her moment of resurrection, a stage upon which she would reclaim her power, her voice, and her dignity by weaponizing the truth Kyle had buried. She rehearsed the scene in her head like a play, the church silent, the minister's solemn tone, the collective gasp when she would rise from the back pew, her voice steady and sharp, "I object." And the delicious shock that would ripple across every face in the room, from Nikki Newman clutching her pearls to Diane hissing under her breath to Jack tightening his jaw as Kyle paled beside his trembling bride. The beauty of her plan was in the details. She wouldn't just say Kyle lied, oh no, she would describe it vividly, every humiliating moment of their nice encounter, the knock on the train compartment door, Kyle answering in nothing but a towel, the way his chest glistened from the shower steam, the bed creaking under his weight as she leaned in, his lips pressing back against hers before guilt finally broke through, and the pathetic way he later twisted the truth to Claire, claiming it was all her doing, all her kiss, while conveniently forgetting to mention how willingly he had met her halfway. In that moment, Audra would not just be exposing Kyle's lie, she would be painting Claire into a corner, forcing her to relive every trauma of deception, every scar of betrayal, every whisper of Jordan's manipulative voice telling her men can't be trusted, and Claire, standing there in her wedding gown with tears threatening to undo her mascara, would not be able to distinguish between Kyle the man she wanted to trust and Kyle the liar she feared he was. And if that wasn't enough, fate had one more twist, Summer Newman's return. The writers had teased it for weeks, Phyllis and Nick had spoken her name like an omen, and Harrison had been sent to Milan for a visit, so when Summer walked back into Genoa City, hurt, vulnerable, and still very much in love with the man about to marry her cousin, the stage was set for a collision of epic proportions. Picture it, Audra's revelation hanging in the air, Claire choking out, "Is it true, Kyle? Did you kiss her back? Were you in a towel?" And Kyle, stammering, "It wasn't what it looked like, Claire, please," before the doors creak open again and Summer's voice cuts through the tension, "Don't marry him, Claire. He'll never be honest with you. He wasn't with me, and he isn't with you." The room would erupt, Diane rushing forward to shield her son, Jack shouting for order, Phyllis smirking in vindication that her daughter had finally stood up for herself, Victor narrowing his eyes with quiet satisfaction that chaos had unfolded exactly as he expected, Nikki whispering to Victoria that this was why Newmans and Abbotts should never mix, and Audra standing at the center of it all like a queen surveying the ruins of her enemies. Claire would rip off her veil, her chest heaving with rage, her voice breaking as she screamed, "You lied to me, Kyle. You thought you could just hide it and put a ring on my finger and I'd never find out, but I always find out," before running from the church, leaving Kyle standing humiliated at the altar as the guests murmured, the whispers already spreading like wildfire through Genoa City. The fallout would ripple outward for weeks, Jack vowing revenge on Audra for humiliating his son, Victor coldly reminding Claire that this is what happens when she trusts too easily, Diane begging Kyle to fight for Claire even as Phyllis urges Summer to take advantage of the opening, Sally regretting her role in fueling Audra's revenge but secretly enjoying the drama, and Nate watching from the sidelines as the woman who once had his heart proved she was still the most dangerous player in town. And through it all, Kyle would wrestle with the truth, that his own cowardice, his own belief that omission was safer than confession, had destroyed the very thing he wanted to protect, and that Claire, wounded by deception once again, may never forgive him. Genoa City has seen its share of explosive weddings, but this one, fueled by towel secrets, runaway brides, returning ex-wives, and revenge served cold, would stand as a masterclass in how love, lies, and legacy collide, leaving fans breathless, characters broken, and the stage set for months of fallout in which no Abbott, no Newman, and no schemer like Audra Charles escapes unscathed.